Good morning one and all. I welcome you all to Ganesh IAS Academy. In today's session, we'll be seeing environment-based current affairs from the date October 21st to October 26, 2023. Let us get into the news articles one by one. Okay. So the first news that we are going to discuss here is bio-decomposer. So what are bio-decomposers? Where are they used? All these details we must have to know. And what environmental problem are they going to address? These details we will be understanding in this particular topic. So yeah, bio-decomposer. Recently, Delhi government has initiated the spraying of bio-decomposer to tackle stubble burning problem. So they are going to address the problem of stubble burning. Okay. What are they going to use? Bio-decomposers are going to be employed here, and the effectiveness of the microbial solution. Okay, this bio-decomposer is the microbial solution here. Okay, it largely depends on its timing of application. This has been said by the farmers. Okay, so the farmers are saying that the timing of application of these bio-decomposers is very important. Moreover, this stubble burning is not a major contributor of pollution in Delhi, whereas only minimal number of instances are reported in recent years. But then it is a major contributor in some other areas of our country. Let us see what those areas are, especially those northwestern states like Punjab, Haryana. We need to understand what stubble burning is. We are talking about stubble burning, but do we know what stubble burning is? It is a method of removing paddy crops residue, or it might even be wheat crop residue or any crop residue. So it is a method of removing crop residue from the field to sow some other crop, say wheat, removing paddy crop residue and sowing wheat from the last week of September to November. This time period is also important. When is this stubble burning done? It is done during the last week of September to November, and this coincides exactly with the withdrawal of southwest monsoon. So southwest monsoon in India happens from June to September, mid-September. Okay, so from September end, that is last week of September to November, is when this stubble burning is happening. That cultivation pattern is changing here. Okay, so stubble burning is a process of setting on fire to the straw stubble. That is why it is called as stubble burning. Okay, and left after this straw stubble is left after harvesting of grains like paddy, wheat, etc. Okay, and it is usually required in areas that use combined harvesting method. This is very important. So where are we going to use the stubble burning, or where is the stubble burning being employed as a burning technique? It is done where this combined harvesting method is practiced. Okay, and it leaves crop residue behind. This combined harvesting method will leave crop residue behind, and this crop residue is of the previous crop, and then another crop will be sown. Okay, that is combined harvesting method, and it is a common practice in October and November across northwestern India. That is what we saw initially, and primarily in the states of Punjab, Haryana, and even in Uttar Pradesh, stubble burning is a huge problem. Okay, now let us understand what are all the negative effects of stubble burning. So the effects of stubble burning, the first thing here is pollution. It causes pollution. So it emits large amounts of toxic pollutants into the atmosphere, which contains harmful gases like methane, carbon monoxide, volatile organic compounds, and even other carcinogenic agents like polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. Okay, and they adversely affect human health. Okay, if it is a carcinogen, then obviously it is going to affect human health. What are carcinogens? Those substances which are capable of causing cancer. Okay, so by causing a thick blanket of smog, this causes a big blanket of, or a thick blanket of smog. Next, what is smog? Smoke plus fog is smog. So this releases smoke, and fog is already there because of the winter season. Okay, so that is the reason why this is happening. And soil fertility is going to be affected here. Burning husk on the ground destroys the nutrients in the soil. Okay, what people consider is burning stubble will add nutrients to the soil, but at some places they are actually destroying the nutrients in the soil, making it less fertile. Next is heat penetration is also happening because burning is happening, right? So the heat generated by the stubble burning penetrates into the soil, and this heat is leading to loss of moisture. Moisture is very important. Subsurface or subsoil moisture is very important for a plant's growth. Okay, so this moisture is lost. Moreover, useful microbes are also lost in this process. Okay, because of the heat produced by this stubble burning. So these are all the negative effects of stubble burning. Next, we are going to use bio-decomposers to decompose this stubble. That is what the topic is, right? So how are we going to use it, and what are all the bio-decomposers that we have? Bio-decomposer is designed to accelerate the natural decomposition process of the crop residue. Okay, instead of going for burning, naturally decomposing crop residue. Okay, it is done by application of this bio-decomposers, and it is typically a concoction. So it is a mixture of various microorganisms like fungi, bacteria, and even enzymes, which work together to break down the plant's material into organic matter, which enriches the soil. So this plant material are going to be broken down into organic matter, and this organic matter is very important for enriching the soil nutrients. And what are all the examples of bio-decomposers? Best examples are bacteria, fungi, earthworm, insects, and arthropods. In bacteria, we have Bacillus, Clostridium, E. coli, and Salmonella. And in fungi, you have mushrooms, moles, and eels, and earthworms we know. Next is in insects, beetles, flies, ants, maggots, and in arthropods, we have millipedes and woodlice. So these are all the agents which are going to be employed in decomposition of plant materials, thus producing organic matter which will enrich the soil. Okay, so this is how the process happens. Next we have something called as PUSA bio-decomposers. What are these PUSA bio-decomposers, and why this name? That we need to know. So it was developed by Indian Council of Agricultural Research, ICAR, and it is named after ICAR's campus at PUSA. PUSA is a place in Delhi, so that is why it is named PUSA bio-decomposer, and it is a fungi based liquid solution. Okay, so we already saw it can be bacteria, fungi, or any other insects also, earthworm and other things, arthropods. But this PUSA bio-decomposer is fungi based liquid solution which can soften the hard stubble. The hard stubble will be softened to the extent that it can be easily mixed with the soil in the field to act as a compost. So the hard stubble will be acting as a compost. Compost is like a manure to the soil. Next, the fungi thrives at 30 to 32 degrees Celsius, which is important. Okay, so at this season, in this season, this temperature is very much available. So this is the temperature prevailing when paddy is harvested and wheat is sown. So during that season, this temperature is very much available. Thus, these fungi will grow and it will decompose the hard stubble into a decomposed. Okay. Next is, it produces enzymes to digest cellulose, lignin and pectin. Okay. So these are all the substance which causes hardness to the stubble. Okay. So the cellulose, lignin and pectin will be decomposed. Okay, so this is what we need to know about this particular topic. Next, what are all the benefits and what are all the limiting factors of employing or using this bio-decomposers? What are all the benefits? It improves soil fertility, obviously, because it is going to add nutrients to the soil, and productivity of the soil is also going to be increased because stubble works as a manure and compost for the crops, and lesser fertilizer, and even this is also important, lesser fertilizer will be required for the soil in the future. Okay, so this is future. Okay, this is important, and it is an effective and efficient, cheaper, doable and practical technique. So all these things you can use in your answer writing when you I mean, when you write an answer about this biodecomposers, okay? And what are all the limiting factors in using biodecomposers? One thing is crop rotation, labor availability, and the type of the crop grown will affect the relevance and usability of decomposers, okay? So, how crop rotation is happening or how often the crop rotation is happening, and labor availability is also important, and what are all the type of crop that is grown. Based on this only the application of decomposers or the type of decomposers that is used will be determined, okay? So it is a limiting factor. Moreover, the effectiveness of this biodecomposers is dependent on the weather conditions. That is also important, because in the previous slide we saw for the Pusa biodecomposer, 30 to 32 degrees Celsius is needed for the fungal growth, okay? So similarly, the weather condition has to be very conducive for those microorganisms to grow, with less rain in September and October favoring its application. So rain must also be not there, okay? So there must be less rain during these months, then only it will favor the application of biodecomposers. So these are the points which we have to know about this particular topic, that is biodecomposers, which is used in decomposing stubble into a compost, okay? The topic that we are going to discuss now is adaptation by marine microalgae. So in this topic we will be understanding what is marine microalgae, what is marine algae, and what are micromarine algae, and what are all the adaptations made by these microalgae because of the climate change. This is what we are going to understand from this particular topic. So recently scientists from the University of East Anglia in England have found that eukaryotic phytoplanktons, eukaryotic, which means it will be having a defined nucleus and other cell bound organelles, okay? So those eukaryotic phytoplanktons known as microalgae. So these microalgae are eukaryotic phytoplanktons, and they have adapted to cope with global warming as well as changing ocean conditions. So what are all the adaptations made by these microalgae that we need to know, okay? Before that, let us understand what microalgae is. So microalgae are photosynthetic microorganisms, okay? So they involve photosynthesis, okay? They do photosynthesis that can be found in diverse natural environments such as water, rock, and even soil. So our topic here is the adaptation made by microalgae. So when we use the term marine, then there must not be a conclusion that these microalgae are available only in water, okay? Microalgae as such is available in water, rock, and even soil, okay? And they present higher photosynthetic efficiency than terrestrial plants, which is very important. These microalgae have higher photosynthetic efficiency than terrestrial plants like trees and other shrubs, epiphytes and other things, okay? And they are responsible for significant fraction of the world's oxygen production. Obviously, when there is higher photosynthetic efficiency, then there will be higher oxygen production, okay? So they are significantly contributing to higher oxygen production in the world. Next, we need to understand what marine microalgae is. Marine microalgae play a pivotal role in oceanic food chain, okay, because they are primary producers in ocean. So if an organism is a primary producer, then obviously they will play a significant role in that particular food chain or food web, okay? And they also absorb carbon dioxide, okay? When photosynthesis happens, there is absorption of carbon dioxide and release of oxygen, right? So in the previous slide we saw that they are contributing to higher amount of oxygen in the atmosphere, and here we are seeing that it is going to absorb carbon dioxide. Next, the climate change continues and the global warming is happening these days, and it is causing surface ocean waters to warm, thus resulting in reduced nutrient availability due to less mixing between the surface water and the nutrient rich deeper waters. So when the surface water is warm, there is warm surface water, then the mixing happens only in the warmer areas, okay, but the deeper areas which are nutrient rich will not be utilized because there won't be mixing between the deeper waters, okay. So because of these reasons, these nutrient rich deep waters are not made available to these phytoplanktons, that is microalgae, marine microalgae, okay. So this is the problem which is faced by these microalgae, but they have made a particular adaptation. What is that adaptation? Let us understand. So the nutrients become scarce to the surface, impacting the primary producers, I mean the microalgae that are present in the top layer. So these microalgae are actually present at the topmost layer because they are phytoplanktons, okay, because they need sunlight. Only in those regions where sunlight is available in plenty, they will be present, okay. Next is, what is the adaptation made by them? So this scarcity of nutrients, which includes iron. So iron here is an important nutrient for marine algae growth, okay. So this scarcity will impact the primary producers like microalgae, causing them to produce less food, and they also capture less carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So two problems: they do not contribute to higher amount of food production, and they are not capturing more carbon dioxide as it did the earlier, okay. Next, microalgae need sunlight and ample iron. This is important, okay. So these microalgae need sunlight and they also need ample iron to produce food and also to absorb carbon dioxide, but 35% of the ocean surface lacks sufficient iron for their growth. This is because of poor mixing. The deeper waters which has iron is not mixing well, okay. And best examples of microalgae include diatoms, dinoflagellate and chlorella, okay. So these are the example. This can be asked in your exam, okay, which is important. Next is, how is the adaptation made and what is causing this adaptation? That is a particular protein called rhodopsin, okay. So there is activation of a protein called rhodopsin. So in response to the changing climate conditions in the ocean surface, marine microalgae is activating a protein called rhodopsin, which is similar to the protein which is responsible for low light vision in the human eye. In human eye we have low light vision, right? So during that low light vision there is production of this protein, that is rhodopsin protein, okay. So because of that only we can have this low light vision, okay. It is just an analogy drawn here, okay. But what are rhodopsins here? Rhodopsins are major light capturers in marine algae, okay, or marine microalgae in the ocean, and they can absorb as much as light as the chlorophyll based photosynthesis is doing, okay. So the same amount of sunlight which is required for photosynthesis, chlorophyll based photosynthesis, a similar amount of light is being captured by these rhodopsins, which are activated by these microalgae. Those are the protein, okay. And this rhodopsins capture light to generate energy, okay, and they generate energy in the form of adenosine triphosphate or ATP, okay, and thus helping the microalgae produce food and capture carbon dioxide, okay. So when there is no much nutrient availability, this rhodopsin is acting as an alternative source of energy. They are capturing light and they are supplying energy to the plant. Thus this adaptation is crucial for their survival, especially in regions with nutrient poor surface water due to ocean warming. So ocean warming causes nutrient poor surface water. So this is the adaptation made by this particular microalgae. This is what we need to know from this particular news. The topic that we are going to discuss now is marine cloud brightening. What is marine cloud brightening? In this we will be understanding cloud formation and what is this marine cloud brightening, how is it going to help in coral bleaching, okay, to overcome the negative effects of coral bleaching, okay. Let us understand. The concept of marine cloud brightening is gaining prominence recently as a tactic for addressing extreme ocean heat. Okay, so they are going to address extreme ocean heat, and also it will reduce coral bleaching and safeguard marine ecosystem. So these are all the benefits of marine cloud brightening. So let us understand what this marine cloud brightening is. So this concept of cloud brightening traces back to the British cloud physicist. His name is John Latham. Okay, he proposed this idea in the year 1990, and he proposed this as a means to control global warming by altering the Earth's energy balance. So the Earth's energy balance will be altered, thus the effect of global warming will be controlled. Okay, so John Latham's calculations suggested brightening clouds over vulnerable areas of the ocean to counteract warming. Okay, so he suggested brightening the clouds. How are we going to brighten the clouds? Let us understand the mechanism now. What is the mechanism of marine cloud brightening? So in clean marine air, okay, or in clean maritime air, the clouds primarily are formed from sulfates and sea salts, okay, sea salt crystals. These sulfates and sea salt crystals will be acting as cloud nuclei, cloud formation nuclei, okay. So these are relatively scarce. These sulfates and sea salt crystals are relatively scarce in clean marine air, in clean maritime air, okay. Thus it leads to larger droplets with low light reflection. So there will be formation of larger droplets because of these sulfates and sea salt crystals, okay. But there must be smaller droplets for reflection to happen. Thus those smaller droplets, I mean the clouds formed because of these smaller droplets or numerous smaller droplets, will be brighter and lighter, okay, brighter and even whiter, okay. So that is what our aim is, to produce marine cloud brightening, that is to boost the marine cloud reflectivity, making clouds whiter and brighter. How are we going to make clouds whiter and brighter? By making numerous small crystals instead of making large droplets, okay. We are going to make small droplets, and this will boost marine cloud reflectivity, also called as albedo. Albedo is nothing but the portion or the fraction of sunlight which is reflected is called as albedo, okay. So we are going to reflect back the sunlight, thus global warming is limited, okay. So it involves using water cannons and specialized vessels to release fine saltwater droplets into the atmosphere. When these saltwater droplets are evaporated, they leave behind salt particles in the atmosphere. Thus these salt particles will be serving as cloud condensation nuclei, okay. So these salt particles which is dispersed in the atmosphere because of these water cannons and specialized vessels, these will be acting as cloud condensation nuclei, which foster the formation of denser and brighter clouds, okay. So let us understand, or let us view how these cannons will be looking, okay. So such water cannons are employed here, and they will be dispersing water like this, and when the water evaporates, they leave behind, when these water evaporate, they leave behind the salt crystals, and these salt crystals will be acting as cloud formation nuclei, okay, cloud condensation nuclei. So generally clouds consist of, the warm clouds which are formed by this process will be consisting of numerous small suspended water droplets. So there will be numerous small suspended water droplets, okay, and these droplets form around tiny airborne particles known as aerosols. So these salt crystals which are formed or which are dispersed using these cannons will be acting as aerosols, okay. So these aerosols can be natural and human made. So if it is natural, then it is sea salt, dust, pollen, ash, and even sulfates. If it is man-made, then it is from the activities like burning fossil fuels. Okay, so this is how it will happen. So water vapor in the air will be here like this, and this cloud condensation nuclei will provide surface for the water droplet formation. Okay, so this is the cloud condensation nuclei, the darker one, and the smaller dots are the water vapor in the air. And these water vapor are getting attracted, will be getting attracted to these cloud condensation nuclei. Okay, to its surface it will get attracted, and thus a water droplet is formed around this cloud condensation nuclei, and numerous water droplets together is clouds. Okay, so this is how cloud formation is happening, and when it happens because of numerous small water droplets, then those clouds will be lighter, whiter and brighter. Okay, next, a cloud of many small droplets is brighter than fewer large droplets, which is very important. So if there is a cloud which is consisting of small water droplets, numerous small water droplets, then this cloud will be brighter and whiter than which contains large water droplets. So when we see the amount of water that it contains, okay, the overall water that it contains, then both will be containing the same amount of water, but this cloud will be brighter and this cloud will not be brighter, it will be darker. Okay, so this is the difference, but we need brighter cloud for albedo to happen. Okay, to increase albedo or to increase reflectivity. This is called as marine cloud brightening, and it is going to help us in overcoming the problem of coral bleaching. Okay, so this marine cloud brightening has the potential to lower the sea surface temperature, obviously because of the reflectivity, and this is done in the targeted areas where extreme extreme temperatures are faced due to global warming, and this potentially reduces the frequency and severity of coral bleaching events. Okay, and then we humans are actually contributing to cloud brightening. Okay, unknowingly we are doing it. So humanity is already unintentionally engaged in cloud brightening. How are we doing this cloud brightening? This is the data given by Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. What are they saying? They estimated that human activities, that is unintentional activities, release aerosols which offsets 30% of the warming effect due to greenhouse gases. So we humans are releasing a lot of aerosols, and these aerosols are forming clouds which are brighter and whiter, and they are reflecting back the sunlight, thus global warming is controlled. So we are doing this. And sulfates in ship, this is one best example for like how humans are releasing aerosol. Sulfates in ship exhaust are such potent source of aerosols for droplet formation, and the passage of ship leaves a cloud trail called as ship track. Okay, so there will be a cloud trail. It's like if there is a ship, it will be having chimneys and all, right? So it will be leaving this smoke. Okay, and they will act as aerosol. This will form clouds here. So this track is called as cloud track, or ship track. Okay, so this is how this happens, how humans are contributing to cloud brightening. Okay, because of aerosol production. Next, we talked about coral bleaching. So let us very briefly understand what coral bleaching is. Coral bleaching is a phenomenon where corals, which are typically bright and colorful, okay, but then because of this bleaching they lose their color and turn white due to stress, and this stress is often caused by elevated sea temperature. So because of increase in temperature, coral bleaching is happening, and this occurs when coral expels the symbiotic algae. So coral will be in a symbiotic relationship with an algae which is providing this color and all. Okay, so this symbiotic algae living within their tissues, so, and this provides them with nutrients and color. This algae is what is giving them nutrients and color. Okay, and This coral bleaching weakens the coral, making them more susceptible to disease, and it can even lead to death of coral if the stress is continued. Okay, so this is what we need to know about this coral bleaching and this marine cloud brightening topic. Okay. The topic that we are going to discuss now is dust suppressants. What are dust suppressants? Let us understand in detail. Recently, dust suppressants have gained significant attention as a potential solution to reduce dust related pollution, okay, which is especially being observed in cities like Delhi, where air pollution remains a crucial concern, okay, or a critical concern. Dust suppressants are typically composed of calcium and magnesium salts. So from exam point of view, this is what is important. So they are composed of calcium and magnesium salts, which are mixed with water and they are sprayed on the roads for the dust to suppress. Okay, and this mixture effectively suppresses dust, providing longer lasting relief from particulate matter in the air. All the particulate matter will be subsided. Okay, so this is how dust suppressant is working. And what are they? They are calcium and magnesium salts mixed with water. Okay, now what air pollution is? What is air pollution? Let us understand that it is the presence of harmful substances in the earth's atmosphere originating from natural or man-made sources. It may be due to both sources, which adversely affect air quality, human health and overall environment. So only when there is an adverse effect on the air quality, human health and overall environment, then it is pollution. Okay, that is air pollution because it is in the earth's atmosphere. Next, Central Pollution Control Board has made a study, and this study has indicated that application of dust suppressants when mixed with water is more efficient in controlling the pollution than the traditional method where they use only water. Okay, so instead of using only water, if you go for dust suppressants, calcium, magnesium salts, then it is more effective. That is what the study says. And the study observed that up to 30% reduction in dust concentration, both PM10 and PM2.5 from construction sites and roads following the use of this dust suppressant. So this is what we need to know, and what is its chemical composition that we need to understand. Okay. The topic that we are going to discuss now is Interconnected Disaster Risk Report 2023. So what is this report about? Who has released this report and what are all the important and significant points related to this report? Let us understand one by one. So Interconnected Disaster Risk Report 2023, it is an annual science-based report which is released by United Nations University Institute for Environment and Human Security, and it was first published in the year 2021. And this United Nations University is an academic arm of United Nations and it acts as a global think tank. Okay, questions based on such organizations and universities are also important. Okay, and the mission for this institute, that is Institute for Environment and Human Security, is to carry out cutting edge research or on risk and adaptation related to environmental hazards, okay, and also global change. And this institute is based in Bonn, that is in Germany. Okay, now let us understand about this interconnectedness report. So the report analyzes several concrete examples of disaster each year and it explains how they are interconnected. This is what is important. So they are analyzing several disasters and they are also explaining how they are interconnected with each other. And how they are interconnected with each other along with human actions. This is also analyzed there. And the report illustrates how seemingly stable systems. So now at present there may be many systems which may seem stable but they are actually deteriorating gradually. Okay, until a critical threshold is crossed. This is what they are analyzing. When the critical threshold is crossed, it will result in catastrophic consequences. Okay, so these are the points which they are analyzing, and it introduced the concept called risk tipping points. This is what we are going to see in detail. They have suggested 6 risk tipping points. Okay, so what are risk tipping points? Those are the moments when socio-ecological systems can no longer buffer risk, so they can't hold risk or they cannot tolerate risk anymore, and they will face a heightened risk of catastrophic impacts. Those are called as risk tipping points, which is a very important topic from your prelims and mains point of view. Okay, risk tipping points. Now let us understand the risk tipping points which has been suggested by this particular report. So the first tipping point here is groundwater depletion. Groundwater means those which are stored in the aquifers. So these are vital for over 2 billion people of the world, with 70% used for agriculture. So of these groundwater which are stored in aquifers, 70% are used in agricultural processes, but 21 of the world's major aquifers are depleting faster. That is what the tipping point here is. Okay, so they are depleting faster than they can recharge, and these aquifer water often took thousands of years to accumulate, and it is essentially non-renewable, which is important. Okay, statements like these can be asked in your exams, that aquifers are essentially non-renewable because they take thousands of years to accumulate. Okay, and over extraction has occurred in some areas like Saudi Arabia, which has depleted over 80% of its aquifers. Okay, and this will force reliance on imported crops, posing challenge for food security. So when they are relying more on imported crops because they do not have sufficient water, aquifers for their crops to grow, so they depend heavily on imported crops, thus it will pose a big challenge for their food security. Next, there are certain areas within Indo-Gangetic plain in India, okay, Indo-Gangetic basins in India, which have already crossed the critical threshold of groundwater depletion, and the entire northwestern region, I mean the states like Rajasthan, Punjab and Haryana, is expected to face severe limited groundwater availability by the year 2025, which is alarming. Okay, so this is the first tipping point, that is groundwater depletion. Let us understand the next one, the second one, that is accelerating species extinction. This is happening. Okay, so human activities like land use change, over exploitation and climate change have accelerated species extinction, and the current extinction rate due to human influence are hundreds of times higher than the normal one. Okay, and extinction can trigger a chain reaction causing collapse of the ecosystem. So species extinction due to human activities is the next tipping point here. The third one is mountain glacier melting. Okay, so glaciers are vital water sources. Okay, we in India, I mean the Himalayan sources are based on the Himalayan glaciers. Okay, the big rivers, the big perennial rivers of India like Ganga, Yamuna are sourced from glaciers. Okay, but they are melting at double the rate due to global warming. This should not happen. Okay, over melting is happening. So between the year 2000 to 2019, glaciers lost 267 gigaton of ice per year. Okay, which is huge, and we are projected to lose around 50% of the glaciers by the year 2100, that is 2100, even with limited warming. So even with limited warming, we are expected or projected to lose around 50% of the glaciers that we have at present. Okay, and 90,000 plus glaciers from Himalayas, Karakoram and Hindu Kush are at risk, and so are the nearly 870 million people that rely on them. So even people are at risk and these glaciers are at risk. So conserving our glacier is very important. Limiting global warming is very important in those regions. Okay, so this is the third tipping point. What is the fourth one? Space debris. Okay, we are using satellites for many purposes like weather monitoring, communication, safety, but there is a growing number of satellites in the space which is causing space debris problem. Okay, so only 25% of the objects in the objects in the orbit are active satellites. So of all the satellites which are orbiting around the earth, only 25% are active, whereas the rest are non-functional debris. Okay, so there are about 130 million smaller and untrackable debris pieces in our space, in the space. Okay, so these information or facts can be used in your answer writing, and these objects move at high speed and they pose a problem, that is collision risk is happening. Okay, they cause a problem of collision risk to operational satellites, creating a hazardous orbital environment. Okay, so this collision might be like a chain reaction also, one body colliding with another, thus due to that impact it is colliding another object. Okay, this might happen in a chain reaction format. Okay, so there is a particular term for that chain reaction format. I want you to put that in the comment section. Okay, next is unbearable heat. This is the fifth one. That is, climate change is causing more deadly heat waves, and high temperatures and humidity make it hard for the body to cool down. Okay, heat waves are happening, and when the wet bulb temperature exceeds 35 degrees over 6 hours, then it can lead to organ failure and even brain damage might happen. Okay, these are the heat stress. Okay, and this has already occurred in places that in places like Jacobabad in Pakistan, and even in India during 2023 heat wave, wet bulb temperatures went above 34 degrees Celsius. Okay, so unbearable heat is the fifth point, and this is expected to affect over 70% of the global population by the year 2100. Okay, so this is the fifth one, and the last one is uninsurable future. This is also happening. What is uninsurable future? So frequent severe weather event is causing a seven-fold increase in the damages. So when there is severe weather events, then it will cause damage to people and also other infrastructure, or many other damages will happen. So all these damages must be insured. Okay, to recover from the damage or to be resilient, then we must have to be insured. Okay, so insurance costs are rising due to climate change, making the coverage of unaffordable for many. Okay, since insurance cost is increasing, it is being unaffordable for many, and some insurers are leaving high risk areas, leading to regions being labeled as uninsurable. So there is rise in uninsurable area because of climate change. Okay, and this is one best example, that is in Australia about 5,20,940 homes may become uninsurable by 2030 due to increased flood risk. So flood risk is the problem here. So to recover from the flood risk, people will be insuring all the objects that they have or their lives and other things, but then when it goes in an alarming rate, insurers will not be providing that much of insurance money. So thus they create uninsurable regions. This is the sixth tipping point. So what are all the major drivers for increasing disaster risk that we need to know? First one is urbanization. Next is environmental degradation. All of these are caused by humans. Okay, inadequate and inefficient infrastructure, that is also done by humans, and poor land use planning. We are constructing homes or high-rise buildings in ponds and lakes. Okay, this is poor land use planning. Next is water management issues are there. Next is the global interconnectedness. Okay, so because of this global interconnectedness only, we are facing more problems, because the world becomes more interconnected. Thus, disruption in one area can have a cascading effect globally. So, if there is a destruction in one area, then obviously it will be affecting other areas. Okay? So, likewise, it will have a cascading effect. And this interconnectedness can propagate the economic as well as social impact of the disasters. Next is solution. What are all the solution, the 4 category framework which are to classify and prioritize solution for addressing these tipping points. It has been suggested by this report itself. Okay, so the first is avoid delay, second is avoid transform, third and fourth are adapt delay and adapt transform. These are the 4 category of framework. So what is this avoiding delay? It means actions that aim to prevent disasters by slowing them down using current methods. We are already having current methods, we are going to slow them down. We are going to slow down the disasters from happening, and the best example here is implementing strict building codes and land use regulations to prevent major damages from the disasters. Okay, so this is avoid delay. Next is avoid transformation. We are going to avoid. Okay, so these actions focus on preventing disasters by making significant changes in how things are done. So we are going to we are going to make changes. So the best example here is transitioning from fossil fuel based energy production to renewable based energy production. So this is like a change which is happening, that is transforming. We are transforming from fossil fuel based to renewable energy based. Okay, like solar and wind, to avoid the risk associated with climate change. This is the second category. The third and the fourth category are adapt delay and adapt transform. Okay, what is adapt delay? Adapt delay is the action which prepare us to handle disasters by buying more time to respond. Okay, adapting to delay. How is this done? The example here is developing advanced early warning system for tsunamis, and this will buy time for people to evacuate and prepare for their disaster. So we are getting a lot of time to prepare for the disaster. This is adapt delay. Next is adapt transform. That is, these actions involve making big changes to how we do the things to adapt to the disasters, and the example here is implementing coastal zoning policy and restoring natural barrier ecosystems like mangroves to adapt to rising sea levels and transform coastal protection strategies. Okay, so these are all the points which we need to understand from this particular topic, that is interconnectedness disaster report. Okay, so yes, with this we have come to end of this particular session. I hope you found the session to be very useful and informative. Let us see in the next session. Thank you.